Get behind me! You're dead!
Stop, please!
Back off now!
In the heart of Chicago, Illinois, where the spirit of resilience runs as deep as Lake Michigan's waters and every skyline tells a story of reinvention, Sarah's ordinary morning shattered into something extraordinary. The scent of sizzling bacon and rich coffee filled the Lincoln Park diner as she moved between tables with quiet grace. She had no idea her life was about to change forever. He leaned across the table, voice low enough for only her to hear. "You're in danger. Pretend I'm your dad." Before Sarah could react, two men in dark jackets entered, hands drifting toward hidden weapons, eyes locked on her with cold intent. When she played along, the Hells Angels president leaned in once more and spoke words so unexpected they cracked her world open. Yet in that very breaking, something strong and luminous began to rise inside her. What came next, she never saw coming. If this story of courage, sacrifice, and the quiet power of keeping promises touches something real in you, subscribe and drop a comment letting me know where you're listening from. I've got another tale of hope and second chances dropping soon that you won't want to miss. Sarah's coffee pot paused mid-pour. In the mirror behind the pie display, she saw the two men moving closer, slow and patient, the way predators move when they believe their prey has nowhere left to run. The man across from her never flinched. His leather vest carried the Hells Angels patch and the word President. His jaw looked forged from 20 years of hard decisions, his eyes holding the kind of wisdom most people only read about and quietly hope they never have to earn. "Right now," he said, "laugh like I just said something that embarrassed you. Pull out your order pad." Sarah laughed. It came out sharp and imperfect, but it came. Her fingers found the order pad in her apron. "Good," he said. "My name is Hank Reeves. I've been watching those two men watch you for 4 days. Today they stopped watching and started moving. That means they got the order." "The order for what?" she asked, voice steady. Hank's jaw tightened with the weight of something he had carried far too long. To finish what they started 24 years ago. The second man was already heading toward their booth. "They're coming," Sarah whispered. "I know." Hank's hand moved beneath the table. "When I stand up, you walk toward the kitchen, not run. Walk. Out the service exit into the alley. Can you do that?" "I don't know you." "No," he said, and something crossed his face that wasn't quite grief, but had lived beside it for a very long time. "But I knew your father. I made him a promise the night he died that I intend to keep." The word "died" landed like a stone. Sarah's mother had always told her a clean, simple story. Her father left before she was born. 24 years she had believed it. The man across from her looked at her with eyes that said the story was a lie. The second man was 8 feet away. Now Hank said quietly, "Sarah, now." She moved. Through the kitchen, past the line cooks, through the service door, into the cold Chicago morning. 10 feet away an engine was already running. A motorcycle she had absolutely no business riding. Hank came through the door 4 seconds behind her, moving fast and quiet for a man his size. "Left side. Hold the back rail. Lean with the turns, not against them. Get on." She got on. The city blurred around them as Hank threaded the bike through morning traffic with expert grace. A black SUV tried to follow but couldn't match their path through the tight streets. By the time it found them again, they were blocks away. He pulled into a parking structure, killed the engine, and for a moment, the world went still. Hank reached into his vest and placed an old photograph on the seat between them. 2 younger men stood in front of a building. One was unmistakably Hank. The other had her eyes, her exact eyes. "Your father's name was Frank Mitchell," Hank said, voice older now, costing him something to speak. He wasn't a deadbeat. He didn't walk out. He was 26 years old, and he was murdered. The people who killed him have been looking for you ever since. Why? Because of what he left behind before he died. Evidence. The kind that brings down empires built on fear and silence. Hank paused. They never found it. They've spent 24 years assuming Frank told someone where it was, your mother or you. I was a baby. They don't care. To them, you're not a person. You're a loose end. Sarah's voice came out smaller than she intended. My mother knows. Hank's silence confirmed it. She did what I told her to do. Every move, every city, every new apartment, that was me, keeping you ahead of them, keeping you alive. If you're angry, be angry at me. I'm angry at everyone, Sarah said, surprised by the cold, deep clarity of it, especially at whoever decided I didn't have the right to know who my own father was. Hank nodded once. Those men know where you work. They'll know where you live within the hour. We need to get to your mother before they do. Sarah slipped the photograph into her apron pocket. Then let's go. Diana Mitchell was washing dishes when they walked in, the ordinary, hopeful act of a woman who had spent 24 years building a life anyway. The coffee mug slipped from her hands when she saw Hank. The sound of it cracking against the sink would stay with Sarah forever. Hank, Diana whispered, stripped of everything except fear. You said she was safe. The rules changed this morning. 2 of Cutter's men were at the diner. They weren't watching anymore. They were moving. Tell me, Sarah said. All of it. Right now. Diana looked at Hank. He gave a small, steady nod. She's earned it. Diana closed her eyes. When she opened them, 24 years of careful lies quietly came apart in the morning light. She reached behind the refrigerator and pulled out a thick, dusty manila envelope, setting it on the table as if it might hold her up or hold her down. She couldn't tell which. Your father's name was Frank Mitchell, Diana began. Before he was your father, before he was the man I loved, he was one of the most effective operators Dale Cutter ever employed. Within 6 years, he knew where every body was buried, sometimes literally. What changed? Sarah asked. I did, Diana said. He met me. He started talking about getting out. Then I told him I was pregnant. We were sitting on a bench by the water in February, cold enough to see your breath. He went completely still. Then he looked at me and said, Diana, I can't let a child of mine grow up inside this. I won't do it. 3 weeks later, Frank came home and told her what he was going to do. He had spent those weeks copying everything, financial records, shipping routes, the names of every judge and officer on Cutter's payroll, enough to put Dale Cutter away for life and take half his empire with him. He was going to take it to the FBI, Sarah said. He was, Diana confirmed. Hank was going to get me out first. Then Frank was going to walk into the federal building and hand over everything. But Sarah said, but Frank trusted someone he shouldn't have. Hank said from the window, voice flat and cold, his second in command. 20 years working together. Frank thought that meant something. Briggs went straight to Cutter. They took Frank to a warehouse down by the docks. 2 days. He didn't give up the location. Not a word. They killed him on a Wednesday morning and made it look like a robbery. I got to your mother that same night. The kitchen was very quiet. The evidence, Sarah said finally. Did they find it? No, Hank said. Which means Cutter has spent 24 years looking for it, and for anyone who might know where it is. Me, you. Diana reached into the envelope and pulled out a single folded sheet, creases worn white with age. Frank left something for you. He encoded the location, hidden somewhere only you could unlock. Your birthday, the full date, spelled out in letters, not numbers. He told me the night before Hank took me away. Said if anything happened to him, the answer was always going to be in you. Where is it? Sarah asked. Where did he hide it? Grant Park, Diana said softly. A bench near Lake Michigan. Third bench from the east entrance. Underneath the left armrest support, there's a hollow in the concrete. He poured a waterproof box in there himself. Hank's phone buzzed. Once, twice. His entire body changed, shoulders settling, eyes going flat and focused. 2 SUVs just pulled onto your street, black tinted. They're not trying to be subtle anymore. He was already moving. This building what's above us. Rooftop access through the north stairwell, Sarah said. Doors usually unlocked. Fire escape on the east side. We go up. roof to the next building. Fire escape down. My truck's 2 blocks over. From the stairwell below came the sound of boots, multiple sets, coordinated. Diana grabbed Sarah's arm, fierce and desperate. I'm sorry, baby. I'm so sorry. Every lie, every move, Sarah took her mother's face in both hands. Tell me later. Right now, I need you to move. Something shifted in Diana's eyes. The fear didn't leave, but something else moved in beside it. Something that had been waiting a long time to be useful. I can move, she said. They ran. 4 men in dark jackets hit the hallway as Hank shoved open the north stairwell door. 1 flight. 2. The rooftop door was unlocked. Cold Chicago air hit them like a wall. The gap to the next roof was 8 feet. I can't, Diana said. You can, Hank said, because those men are not coming up here to talk. The rooftop door slammed behind them. Sarah grabbed her mother's hand. Together, on 3. They ran. They jumped. For 1 stretched second, Sarah was suspended over nothing. Then her feet hit gravel, and her momentum carried her into a roll. Diana landed hard, ankle twisting, but adrenaline overruled the pain. Hank caught her arm, and they were already moving toward the fire escape. By the time they hit the alley, sirens were rising in the distance. Hank's gray truck was waiting, engine running. They pulled into traffic. Diana pressed against the window, eyes closed, lips moving in something that might have been a prayer. Sarah sat with the envelope in her lap and her bleeding palms and found something solid to stand on. Anger, mostly. Clean and cold and clarifying. But underneath it, rising like dawn, was purpose. Grant Park, she said. That's where we're going. That's exactly where Cutter will expect us to go, Hank said. Good, Sarah said. Let him. Hank held her eyes in the mirror for a long moment. Then he said, if we're doing this, we do it right. He handed her his phone, screen facing out. Everything that happens from the moment you sit on that bench goes live to Christine Marsh at the federal prosecutor's office. She's been waiting 3 years for something she could use. Today, she gets it. You already called her while we were getting your mother off the roof. Cutter will show up. He won't be able to help himself. 24 years of waiting for this box. Every word he says goes straight to federal record. And if he doesn't talk, he'll talk, Hank said simply. Men like Dale Cutter always talk when they think they've already won. He nodded once and drove. Grant Park at 6 in the morning belonged to joggers and dog walkers and the quiet promise of a new day. Hank coasted the truck to the curb 2 blocks out. The park stretched ahead in soft gray light, Lake Michigan dark and steady beyond the railing. He's already here, Hank said. How do you know? Because I would be. His eyes moved across the tree line, methodical. East side. 2 men by the maintenance shed, 1 near the north entrance, pretending to stretch. And at least 1 more I can't place, which means he's good, which means he's the one to worry about. The bench, Sarah said. How far? 40 yards, Diana said quietly. 3rd bench. Frank chose it because on a clear day, you could see the skyline reflecting on the water like a promise kept. Sarah looked at the men Hank had placed. I'll go. No, Hank said. They're watching for you. If you walk in, every one of them goes to high alert. She held his eyes. But a woman walking to a bench at 6 in the morning looks like someone who needed air and a moment of peace. They won't move until I find the box. That gives you time. Time for what? To come in from the north and flank whoever's covering the bench. Hank looked at her for a long moment. Your father used to think tactically like that, he said. The combination, your birthday written out fully, month, day, year. No abbreviations. Frank was precise about everything. Be precise. She nodded, stepped out into the cold, and slipped the phone into her apron pocket, screen facing out, already transmitting. The gravel crunched under her shoes. She kept her pace even, a woman with somewhere to be but no urgency about getting there. The bench appeared ahead, wooden slats, iron armrests. Lake Michigan moved behind it, dark and patient, and somewhere above the cloud cover, the Chicago skyline stood exactly where it always stood, waiting to be seen. They always said they'd come back on a better day. Sarah sat down, looked at the water, then leaned forward, elbows on knees, and let her hand drop to the side of the armrest support. Cold concrete. A seam too clean to be a crack. A sealed panel that gave under pressure. It came free with a sound like a held breath being released. Inside a metal box the size of a hardcover book, wrapped in heavy plastic tape, yellowed with age but still holding. Sarah's hand closed around it. "Don't move." The voice came from directly behind her. She didn't move. The man who stepped around the bench was the one Hank couldn't place. Mid-40s, calm in the way professionals are calm when violence is just another tool. "Put it on the bench." "No," Sarah said. Gravel shifted left and right as the others converged. 4 of them now, maybe more. Then from the far side of the park, an engine. A black SUV rolled through the north gate, slow, the way things move when they believe they've already won. The rear door opened, and Dale Cutter stepped out into the gray light, 60 years old. Silver hair, a jacket that cost more than Sarah made in 2 months, an expression of mild, weary disappointment. "You look exactly like him," he said. "Same stubborn jaw, same eyes." He almost smiled. "Frank was the best operator I ever had. I didn't want what happened to happen, but it happened anyway." Sarah stood. He made a choice. Choices have consequences. Cutter held out his hand. "Give me the box. Walk away. Your mother walks away. This ends here. Like my father got to live whatever life he wanted. Your father is 24 years gone. Nothing you do this morning brings him back. But you can still walk away from this." Sarah looked at the box, at 24 years of her mother checking door locks twice every night, at the quiet courage it took to keep going anyway. She felt the wind off the lake on her face, and something inside her settled into certainty. "You're right," she said. "Nothing brings him back, but this does." She raised the phone and turned the screen toward him, live feed already running. "Federal Prosecutor's Office. Everything you just said, every word in your own voice in this park this morning, has been on record for 6 minutes. Cutter's face changed, not dramatically, just a subtle draining. The certainty of a man who had run every room he'd ever walked into, going out like a light being switched off. 3 black sedans came through the north gate. Fast FBI markings clear. 2 more from the east. Hank emerged from the tree line, his presence making a statement that didn't require words. Cutter's men looked at the sedans, then at Cutter. Cutter looked at Sarah, and in that moment, something crossed his face that surprised her. Not rage, not calculation. Something that had apparently been living underneath both for a very long time. Something that looked almost like relief. The arrest took 11 minutes. Sarah sat on the bench and watched Dale Cutter put his hands behind his back without resistance, his expression gone somewhere internal and far away. Federal Prosecutor Christine Marsh crouched in front of her and held out her hand for the box. Sarah held it for 1 more second, then placed it in Marsh's hands. "Chain of custody starts here," Marsh said. "Your father's name goes on the case file. I'll make sure of that, personally." Diana came across the park on Hank's arm, her ankle sore but bearing weight. She sat down beside Sarah and held on. "He would have loved you so much," she said finally. "Tell me about him," Sarah said. "Everything, from the beginning." Dale Cutter went to trial 8 months later. The evidence in Frank Mitchell's box was devastating. 3 decades of records compiled by a man who understood he might not survive to testify. Cutter received 47 years without possibility of parole. On the day of sentencing, Sarah sat in the second row, Hank to her left, Diana to her right. Cutter turned before the bailiff took him, not toward his lawyer, toward Sarah. He held her eyes for a long moment, that same strange, stripped expression from the park. He said something. No sound reached her, but she read it clearly. "I'm sorry." Whether he meant it, Sarah decided she would spend no more time thinking about. His regret was his to carry. She had other things to do. 6 months later, Sarah stood in the admissions office of Northwestern University School of Law, with an acceptance letter in her hand. What do you do with the truth once you have it? She thought about her father standing in a federal building lobby with a box of evidence and 2 days left to live, and a daughter he'd never met, and choosing anyway. She thought about her mother washing dishes after 24 years of fear, still getting up, still being there, still believing ordinary mornings were worth protecting. She thought about Hank Reeves, who had kept a promise to a friend for 24 years, because that was the kind of person he decided to be. You carry it forward, Sarah thought. You build something your father dreamed of and never lived to see. You plant seeds of justice that will grow long after you're gone. You choose hope on purpose. She signed the enrollment form. Outside the window, the Chicago skyline rose proud and clear against a brilliant blue sky. A soft breeze came in off Lake Michigan, carrying the scent of water and new beginnings. Somewhere far north of the clouds that sometimes blanket the city, the light was breaking through. Frank Mitchell's better day had finally arrived, not just for him, but for the daughter who would spend her life making sure truth and courage still had a fighting chance in this world. Sarah Mitchell walked into that law school with her father's story in her chest and her mother's strength in her bones. She wasn't running anymore. She was building. And somewhere out there on a bench by the water under a clear Chicago sky, Frank Mitchell finally got his better day. If this story hit you somewhere real, drop a comment below and tell me. Was it Sarah's courage, Diana's quiet sacrifice, or Hank keeping that promise for 24 years that stayed with you the longest? I read every single one. Thank you for spending this time with Heart Tales. If you haven't subscribed yet, now is the perfect moment. Every story we tell is built to mean something, to remind us that even in the darkest chapters, light can break through. Promises can be kept, and ordinary people can choose to stand for something bigger than fear. And before you go, there are more stories waiting for you on your screen right now. Pick one. I promise it's worth it.